Hello, everyone. We're going to get started. Welcome to the Young Entrepreneurs Club. My name is Johann Escobar. I'm a junior. And today we have a special guest with us. His name is Mario Gonzalez. To me, he's Coach Mario, my first ever soccer coach. One of the very first coaches that kind of gave me confidence to go out there and play. It's a huge privilege for us to have him here. So he graduated from Strake in 1996, and he started and owns Memorial Indoor, Houston Select FC, Memorial Green Turf, and Peak Sports Texas. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
So first off, tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up? What experiences shaped your entrepreneurial mindset?
Okay, so I was born in Guatemala City, Guatemala. It's a small country in Central America. I came here when I was to Houston when I was 2 years old. My father and my uncle came to study medicine at Baylor, and grew up. Went to St. Thomas More. In junior high is when I started to think, you know, that business mindset, that entrepreneurial mindset. I would invite friends over, and we had a pool table, and so we would have a pool tournament, and it was for money, right? And then so people would come and bring money, and then also I would cut hair on the side as well. So in junior high is when I really started.
Side projects.
Yeah. In junior high is when I really started to start to think, hey, I can do business with, you know, with different things.
So is that what you would say, like, inspired you to start your own business? Or?
Yeah. I wanted to make my own money. I didn't want to work for anybody else. So that's when it all started, yeah.
So how did that lead to the soccer? Because I know that was your first.
Yeah. So soccer, I grew up playing at Albion. And what I remember was when we had tryouts, it was just, you know, it was a big group of us, and they would say, hey, you know what, you're going to try out, you're going to be on the A team and the B team. But I didn't really have somebody that would teach me like the technical part of the game, which was very important. As you know, that knowing the specifics, the technique in basketball and soccer, to take you to that next level. It's not just going to be just playing out in the street, which is important, but you have to couple that with the technical ability to elevate your game.
Right.
So that's what. Yeah.
So starting off, I'm sure your business faced many problems. What would you say were the steps that you took to overcome those and grow from them?
Problems in business. Okay, so once we started the indoor facility, and again, you were one of the first ones there. I remember you guys. The first thing that I encountered was I was still doing medical sales when I started the indoor facility. Okay. So I was essentially, it was on the side, right? So I was like, hey, let me try this out. Let me see if it works. Because I loved it. I loved soccer. It was a passion of mine. I'd much rather do that than medical sales. And so when I started the indoor, I was doing the birthday parties, the private classes, the small group trainings. And I was like, man, the parents wanted me to do everything. Yeah. And it was just a little bit much, right? And I was just like, man, if I can't find anybody and delegate and find somebody to do what I'm doing, this is not going to work out. And that's when I found Coach Ernest.
Yeah, Coach Ernest. Yeah. So you said that you love soccer, obviously. So how important do you think it is for students and people trying to be an entrepreneur to find something that they love and build off of that? Yeah,
I think it's key, right? I think it's key for you to for you guys to find something that you love. You know, you have to have passion. Just like in, you know, business is just like if you're playing a sport. If you're not into it, right, you can learn all the techniques, but if your passion, if your heart's not there, I don't think it's going to go to the next level. And then when your passion is there, you know, you portray that onto your employees, which is very important. You know what I mean? The love has to go through your employees. You're not like ruling them, but you're kind of showing them, hey, through passion, how to build your business. I think it's very key.
And talk to us a little bit about, you had the indoor business and then you started the turf and Peak Sports Texas. So talk to us about that process and expanding.
So from the indoor facility, we started that in beginning of 2015. And so initially we were just doing the small group classes. We started the kids at 3 years old. Well, by the time they're 5 and 6 years old, these kids are real comfortable with the ball. And I was like, man, initially I was just going to let them go on to their own clubs. But I was like, you know what, let's think of phase number 2. And phase number 2 is to find fields around the indoor facility that we can grow a club.
Yeah.
Right, so we started, at first, the initial name was Ultimate FC, and you guys were the
Yes.
black, you guys were actually the first team, the first competitive team, if you will, that came out of Memorial Indoor. And then, you know, from the Ultimate, the Black Flames, you know, just more and more teams started growing, you know, the kids start getting older, and you start building a soccer club, which now it's Houston Select FC.
Yes, yes. So then, so like, how did that lead to the turf?
The turf, okay, yeah. So 2020 comes the pandemic.
Right.
Right, the pandemic was tough. All the kids, you know, everybody from the indoor facility, even the outdoor, you know, nobody was playing. Everybody was at home. Everybody was cooped up at home. So my mind is thinking, hey, you know what? I don't want to just sit there and just wait for this all to collapse. So I start to think, you know, I'm doing the videos. A lot of the you know, the coaches were doing videos for the kids that were at home.
Like Zooms and stuff?
Yeah. So I started to do the Zooms, but I was like, you know what? I have to make my backyard look nice. So I got a turf company to come out there and put turf on our backyard. So I do the videos. And then the parents that were watching the videos, they're like, hey, I want that same thing. I want that same thing. Yeah. So that's how the Memorial Green turf started in 2020 is when we started. And we actually started doing not only backyard turfs and putting greens, but we started doing little soccer fields in backyards, which was cool. Yeah, so that's how it started.
And then talk to us a little bit about Peak Sports Texas, because I know I'm not really familiar with it.
Yeah. So, okay, that's why we have the little roadmap here, so I can kind of look as well. So from the indoor facility, we started the club.
Yes.
And from the club, we also started TYSL, which is not named on there, but we also have a league called TYSL Soccer, which all the different clubs can go in there and play. So essentially, you're creating a kind of like this,
a little, circle.
Yep, a little ecosystem where you are controlling it in a way. And you're creating business out of one business, right?
Yes.
So from the indoor comes the club, from the club goes the league, and then the turf ties into it as well. Now, Peak Sports was born, 2 years ago. It's, we have 13 acres in Katy, and with those 13 acres hey, the turf company can go in there.
Yes.
And you know, when they go to the projects, they can meet there. But we also built a bunch of turf fields out there. We're going to put an indoor facility out there. Right now, I'd say it's, you know, it's like 80% built.
Okay. Yeah. So it's still in process.
It's still in process, but it has everything. It's going to have the indoor. It has the turf fields. It's going to have the club. It's going to, you know, the league's going to be able to play. So essentially, you're building a place that all your companies can go in there and be a part of. Yeah.
So what's something that you believed about entrepreneurship when you started that now you know is different?
Something that when I started that I know now is different. You know, when I started thinking of, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur, my first initial thought was I want to make a lot of money, right?
Yes.
And I think that was, in 2020 with the pandemic and other things that happened in my personal life, you know, I was just thinking, hey, how can I make more and make more and make more? And in Scripture it says, you know, the money is the root of all evil, right? So if you're in love with money, it's gonna all just come down on you, right?
Yeah.
So the thing that I switched was one, the faith, right? I started to believe, hey, I have a creator. He's gonna, you know, through the money that I'm making, I want to help others. Right? And when I started to do that shift is when everything started to be blessed, and I wasn't really chasing money, but I was using money as a tool to help others.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like a shift in the mindset.
Exactly. I stopped thinking about myself and I started thinking about others.
Mm-hmm. So, like, I guess you said that when you were younger you would do side stuff. So how old would you say that you were when you started being an entrepreneur?
Junior high, I think when I was at St. Thomas More, I was what? in 6th, 7th grade is when I was like, hey, you know what? I had my clippers. You know, I was good at pool, so we were doing the pool tournaments and cutting hair, so I was making money. You know what I mean? I was hustling in a way, right? So that's when it started in junior high, yeah.
And then, what advice would you give people our age, younger? Any advice you have about starting a business?
You know, it's business. Essentially, you work for yourself. Now, initially, when you start off, you're going to be working a lot.
Yeah.
Right? Especially in those first couple years when you start up. And again, you know, God gave you guys a gift, so use the gift, right? My gift is being able to be a visionary, right? But everybody has their own gift. Once you find out that gift, then you start with something that you're in love with. God will bless it, and then you start to help others.
Right. Yeah. So you said that you start off, you work a lot, and I'm sure that leads to like tiredness, hard days.
Yeah.
So what would you say got you through the hard days?
So yeah, when you find, and I mentioned this before, is when you find somebody that can do what you're doing, and you start to delegate, then you get to start to progress. Now there is going to be tough times, like for instance, the pandemic, or even before the pandemic in 2009 when I was in medical sales. I lost my father tragically, and that really hurt me. You know what I mean? But through the pressing, whenever something happens, because everybody's going to go through trials and tribulations. It's just whether or not you guys are able to use that, not to fall down and not to turn into the world, but to go and to strengthen up.
Yes.
Because through the pressing comes something beautiful, right? Like the wine or like the grapes, right? They get pressed, but they turn into something beautiful, right? Something that you guys can drink or use for, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's important is to know that it's not always going to be easy, and to delegate.
Yeah.
I think those two things are very, very important for you to grow and to come out of those tough times.
And then you talked about Peak Sports and expanding, and you're at, what, 80% now?
Yeah.
What you said. So do you think there's a limit for balance on, you know, expanding in mindset and then still balancing other things in your life?
Yeah, it is important. It is important to balance. There's companies that you can grow, like for instance in the tech world, AI is really big, where you can go and you can create something that really takes off, right? I'm more in the service industry where it's, you know, you're providing a service, so you don't want to grow too quickly,
right?
Because then you get watered down.
Okay.
And it's important. I think Peak is going to be for me. Is going to be the last thing that we create, and it's kind of tying everything together, right? And then just staying there. There's other people that maybe will get into consulting, but as far as like doing what I did here with these companies and opening in a different city, I think that would be tough. I think more of the consulting, more of something kind of like what you're doing is helping the younger generation and give them ideas. You know, I think that's going to be the next step, more of a consulting role.
I just saw on Peak Sports it says World Cup 2026.
Yep.
What does that entail?
So the World Cup is coming, so it's projected to, you know, the soccer world, you know, the turf world, the indoor, anything soccer related is it's essentially double.
Right.
And so we're getting prepared for that. We're going to be partnering with the FIFA World Cup to do parties,
awesome.
Events at Peak. So we're excited. We're excited for the people that are coming in, and we're excited to spread the word, spread the football, the beautiful game to all the kids.
So, I mean, obviously the World Cup's coming. Kids love soccer. So how do you manage, in a way, the market? You see that the World Cup's coming. Do you take proper steps or a different way to, you know, make your business expand even more?
Yeah, I think with the partnering with the World Cup coming, we're going to be doing events. We're going to be hosting tournaments. Okay. I think the indoor facility that's going to be coming in Peak is going to be coming soon, so we're going to start with those classes as well. I think the World Cup is going to bring a lot of fire, you know, because it's essentially the biggest event in the world, right? So with all those people coming in, I think it's just going to add that extra. You know, fuel to what we've already created here.
Yes, and then for people our age, what would you say is the first step? Because starting a business can be very confusing
Yeah.
and can be hard. So what would you say to make it almost not the easiest path, but the simplest path? What would you start with?
So if I was to start, if I was to give some advice to the next generation, I would say, you know, what I mentioned earlier is to not fall in love, not let money be the sole reason,
Yes.
but let it derive from the heart. I think that's the most important thing. That's the mistake that I did. That I was not, you know, I was thinking of, hey, me, money, and essentially that's not what's gonna catapult you to the next level. It's you know, it's the passion, it's the love, it's the helping others, it's the replicating of, you know,
Yes.
what you're doing onto your employees. I think that's the one thing that I would change, and that's the one thing that I would let the next generation know.
Was there a specific moment where you shifted your mindset from the money to your faith, or was it over time you just realized?
You know, there's a lot of things that happen in my life, and again, it's going to happen to everybody. You're not going to have a perfect life. You know, with my father's passing in 2009, I went through a pretty bad divorce in 2020, and I think that was the moment that I was like, you know what, I'm doing something wrong, and you know, I let Jesus take the wheel, and
Right.
and he just changed my heart, my mindset changed, and then everything, I started to notice that everything, you know, he was putting the right people around me. He was, you know, blessing the businesses, because I wasn't thinking about, hey, I want more money each month.
Right.
I wanted to see, hey, how can I help this family and this family? And I was checking on the employees, you know what I mean?
So you think like the biggest aspect of entrepreneurship is kind of finding a problem and helping other people get through that problem?
Exactly. Finding your gift. Obviously, location is important, you know, on whether your gift is like a brick and mortar or it's a service. The location is important. And then once you start to, you know, use that passion that you have to help out, you know, others, then your employees will start to see that and kind of feed off of that.
So are you on social media, or where can our club members follow you or connect with you?
Yeah. So all of, and we should have put it on the slides, but I'll share it with you. The Memorial Indoor, it can be at Memorial Indoor. It can be found at Memorial Indoor. Memorial Green Turf, same. You know, at Memorial Green Turf, at Peak Sports Texas.
Okay.
What's the other one I'm missing? I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
And I can send you those so you guys can check it out.
Yes.
I'd be more than happy to, you know, if anybody has questions, to help. You know, if you guys want to, you know, message me about anything, you know, especially if it's related to sports, since that's it's my little niche. Yeah.
So those are all the questions I had today. So we want to open the floor to any questions from any of the members?
You guys have any questions? Good. Yeah, this is a funny little story, right? So the first funding I got was from a buddy. We were doing when I was in medical sales. There was a turf field. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Lifetime at City Center. Well, there was a turf field on that third floor, and I was friends with the manager, and I was like, hey, let me run some soccer leagues, because I wanted to stay in shape. I still played, and I started growing this soccer league, and then I started training kids, and I was like, wow, this is cool. I have all these teams, and I have all these kids. So one of the guys that was there at Lifetime, I was like, hey, this is turning out pretty good. I'm going to look for a facility, and it ended up being the old Barnes location on Memorial and Derry Ashford. But he gave me $30,000. I was like, hey, if you give me $30,000, I'll bring you in as a partner, and I'll give you 30%, 1% per each thousand. And the next day he had wired me $30,000. I was kind of joking, right? But the next day he wired me $30,000, and now he's a partner of something essentially that's turned out to be really good for him, right? So
did that take long, switching the gym from a gymnastics focus to soccer?
A lot of work. A lot of work, and I know you were there when
yeah.
it was, but we used used turf. You know, it was me and my partner at the time is my partner is Ashkan. We were doing all the manual labor. You know what I mean? It took a lot, and then after it was done, then we started with the classes, and I mentioned it right. I was doing all the small group classes. I was doing all the. I was like, oh man! After the hard work of building it. Then we had to, you know, I had to be, you know, there all the time. And then I was still doing the medical sales. I was like, man, I was getting no sleep. But I was still, you know, I almost gave up. But I was like, no, let me just continue to grind it out. You know, the passion is what was driving, you know what I mean? The passion to help these kids and to see that them develop.
Yeah. So how long did it take for the business to, because you don't do the medical sales anymore.
No. I stopped the medical sales. After a couple years, I was like, man, I left the medical sales and I was like, let me just do this full on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Another reason I left the medical sales is because of I mean, even though I was doing really well in the medical sales, I was working for a couple of different companies, and I would go into these companies and I said, look, give me the lowest base pay and the highest commission, because my father was the chief of staff at the Methodist.
Right.
And I was like, man, you know, they didn't understand it, but I was working for these different companies. But when he passed away, it was just difficult for me to be there and so I was like, you know what, let me try the soccer. It worked out. And after like 2 years, I'd left the medical sales and I went full on with the soccer. And then I found somebody, Coach Ernest, to do what I was doing. So I was like, all right, cool. Then you know, I don't have to be there all the time.
So now, like, how important was it for you to take that risk, especially starting a business? It can be hard to, you know, put yourself out there.
Yeah, it was hard. You know, like I said, in junior high, I always wanted to work for myself. Even when I was in medical sales, I didn't work essentially for the companies, because I told them, I said, look, I'm going to work for other companies as well. So I created my own little medical sales company. I wanted to have my own, you know, freedom on when to work. What I didn't know is that I was going to be working a lot more in the beginning than I initially thought.
Yeah. So to kind of go off of that, this is going to sound bad, but did you fail a lot starting your own business?
Yeah. You know, initially, there was a lot of failure.
Yeah.
Because again, you know, you're working so much, right? And essentially, you're working so much that you're not failing in the business in a sense, but your family is not seeing a lot of you, right? Because once you become an entrepreneur, it's
dedication.
It's tough. It's you got to be, you know. And one of the major things that we go through, you know, to this day is your phone is always on.
Right.
You know, even if you go out to dinner or lunch, I mean, once you're your own business, you have to have that on all the time. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to put this to the side because essentially it falls on you, right? So that's one of the things that I've learned. And now, you know, now everything, you know, a lot of these companies are running on their own. So I spend a lot more time with family, which is important. But yeah, initially it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. It'll be fruitful if you follow some of these guidelines, but it's not easy in the beginning.
Yes. Any other questions from anybody? Yeah.
Hello. I know you had an extensive time in like sports with like soccer. Are there any like translatable skills that you took from your time during that you could apply to like business?
Translatable, okay, from soccer to business. Yeah, what I mentioned is the passion. The passion is always going to, you know, if you find something that's outside of sports, right, you want to be able to like what you're doing, right? And the big key word is the love, man. The love in any business that you're in. If that heart is not in it, if that heart is not being portrayed to your employees, it's going to be tough. So that's that one key translatable, you know, word, if you will, is the love and the passion. You got to like what you're doing. And you got to not like the money. You got to like helping others. Yeah, good question.
Any other questions?
I saw on your slides that you had a pawn shop. What was that? Can you tell us
Oh,
about
yeah,
it? I
yeah.
was just kinda
So,
curious.
yeah, we went over that, but that was from the transition of the medical sales when I was looking for like a way out. The pawn shop, I had a buddy who owned pawn shops, and he wanted me to go into that business. So I kind of dabbled in that for about a year. It was just high risk, you know what I mean? The money was good there, but man, we had to carry, and it was just, it was high risk, a lot of robberies and stuff like that. So that's when, I started thinking about the soccer, and that's when I ran into the, to the indoor facility, and
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Oh, question over there.
Oh. If you had to like change one thing like through your journey, like what would you change?
Change one thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing that I would change, and again, it kind of sounds repetitive, but just not thinking of making money, right? That's the one thing that I would change is to not think, hey, I want to make this amount this month and this amount, you know what I mean? I was
Yes.
just too much into the money thing. Another thing that I would change is that is that I was also dabbling in the world, and if you guys don't understand that, I was still going out, I was still partying, I was still doing a lot of things that essentially it's not the best for you, right? Like the drinking, the partying, all that stuff, it doesn't help. It's essentially it's the enemy trying to take you out of your purpose. But in 2020, when I really let Jesus take the wheel, all that stuff, went away. The love of money, the anxiety, all that stuff goes away. And then your heart starts to get cleansed. You start to do the things the
Yes.
right way. Your purpose in life and everything, starts to fall into place. So don't fall into the world. Don't fall into the world.
I think we have another question there.
Where did your love of soccer come from?
I grew up playing in clubs. I played at a couple of different clubs growing up, and I just had the passion. I just loved it. I was not bad at it, I still think to this day, if I didn't have this entrepreneur that I wanted to make a lot of money, I had a lot of buddies that went MLS, that played pro, and I almost went that route. But I was thinking, hey, let me jump into medical sales. Let me use my father and my uncle who were physicians at the time. And I was thinking, hey, I really started thinking like this, right? Because I had buddies that went to MLS, but they were only going to make $50,000 a year. I was like, no, I can make triple that if I go into medical sales, right? So that's kind of where. But then I always had the passion for soccer. Like to this day, we still, I still play. I still like to go out there and coach. So the passion's there. I still love it. Yeah.
Question in the back.
Let me see.
Stand up. Oh, okay. I was just wondering, what keeps you going every day?
What keeps me going? Yeah. Jesus. He's the one that gives me the strength. He's the one that I started reading a lot of the Bible. The Bible is the menu of life. You know what I mean? You read that, it tells you, where your strength comes from. So the Creator is the one that provides. He's the one that gives me the wisdom. The wisdom that He gives me, I give it to all the different employees, and that's what keeps me going.
Okay, if we're all out of questions, thank you so much for sharing your journey,
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
advice, your experiences with us today. It's an honor having you here, and we appreciate your time. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Everybody join me in giving him a round of applause, please.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
Good job. Good job.